What's up, men? Welcome to the Male Cartel podcast. Let's get started.
Do you think men are important? Like for what?
Men are not meant to be dominant. Men are meant to be submissive.
Life's too short to exercise. I'm just gonna be honest.
It's okay to be fat.
Dispelling toxic masculinity and really redefining what it means to be a man. Men can cry. So it's okay to be weak. It's okay to be weak.
I'm telling you right now, not everybody wants to see you win.
You seem to be more woman than you are man. You don't have any manly qualities.
You give them this message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay, it's necessary. How are we going to do without men? If you look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things.
It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Be a dangerous man. Being dangerous is not being a threat. They're two different things. You can't be a good man if you're not a dangerous man. You say one disrespectful thing to my wife, I am not only willing, but I'm able to inflict great bodily damage.
I'm going to do everything in my power to become a victor and not a victim. I can't explain it, but you better feel me. Winners win and losers lose. I can't explain it any better than that. I don't know how it happens, but winners win. And if you create a culture of losing, if you keep being a victim, if you keep letting losing happen to you, if you keep letting people do you and treat you any kind of way, it's going to become a culture. What's the matter with you? There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Here's your host, Nick and Shane.
Hey, we back. It's the summertime, though, but we back, Male Cartel.
Yeah, and if you're joining us on YouTube, Shane is still the Green Goblin, but we have nothing to hide here. We're recording this at the same time we recorded our previous episode.
Yeah, ain't no shame in that game, bro.
Because it's summertime, and we're doing what we can to get you episodes.
Hey, listen, I listen. If I wore shorts and then jokers are clean, I'm wearing them again tomorrow.
There you go.
Just letting you know.
Yep.
So ain't no shame in that game.
Hey, some of the fashion designers tell people don't wash your jeans a lot unless they're dirty. Don't, because it ruins them.
Now, if you're in the summertime in Georgia,
I feel good as a man. I feel good as a man hearing that.
I do too, man. Yeah, like sometimes I'll even wear the same drawers, bro. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah,
but
he don't do it. I don't sweat that bad these days. You would think I would, but when you're on blood thinner and all this other stuff, the heat doesn't bother me. It does. I'm not gonna lie. When it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees outside, but like when it's like it was when I came in, where I had this hoodie on, it wasn't bad outside.
No.
I mean, it was like 82 and humid, but it wasn't. That to me ain't bad. But when it hits up to 90, this thing's coming off. I have like, I have a bag, and inside the bag I have like 2 sets of underwear, pants, shorts, and 3 shirts, and my whole like. So I have 3 basically. I basically have 2 outfits already in my bag.
When it hits 70, the hoodie's gone. What is it that men go through that's like would be like menopause for women?
I don't know.
Is that just what they call the midlife crisis?
It could be.
Are you in the midlife crisis?
No, I'm in.
You're not 50 yet.
No, I'll be 49 next month.
But they say like women, they start having hot flashes and start sweating bad.
Mine's called medication from all my stuff. Like, I mean, so, all right, so here's the truth. I've always been really good at 48
now.
I'll be 49, and I'm on a bunch of medicine still from all the cancer stuff. And so, one of those medications is blood thinner, and so my blood's pretty thin. That's like old people when they get real cold or they have to stay in a nursing home. It's like, they keep nursing homes like 80 degrees. It's so hot in there you can't even like
because they're so thin.
Because the blood's so thin. So like for me, I've always been pretty good at being acclimatized to Georgia heat. Once the heat comes in, by mid of May, 1st of June, I'm good with the heat. Heat doesn't really bother me. It hasn't really never really bothered me at all. That's not saying when I was in Homestead area, Miami, just about 2 weeks ago, It was hot down there. It was like 114 degrees. Like the heat index was 114. Here was hot too in Georgia. I think that week was like 109. And so it was hot both places, but the humidity was, I think, right at 60%. So it was like thick in the air. You're sweating. I mean, just in a matter of like, 10 seconds, you're sweating. And so obviously I didn't wear a hood or anything then. Like, and I felt the heat like it's hot, but everybody else is like gassed. And like, I did much better.
When do you think your blood starts thinning without blood thinners? Because if you're using blood thinners,
100,
100.
Well, your blood doesn't get thin. It doesn't work that way. It has to.
What about the people in the nursing home? Carl, do you feel like your blood started thinning?
No, I don't think it works that way.
But you're kind of cold natured, aren't you? Like you get colder than I do.
Yeah, you can be natured, different natured.
You think it's just cold natured? That would be. So you're like a weather chameleon.
Yeah, it's called being climatized. I believe that's.
I think it's called evolution.
It could be evolution or revolution. But the nursing home people, they're like, they have like a heart issue, and so then they're on like permanent for the rest of their life blood thinner.
Because they're on blood. Okay, I get.
Their own blood thinner. Yeah.
Okay.
So like, because in my house it is freezing, but my wife, she's always liked it cold. So that matter of fact, my wife's van, when this is released, like now, whatever, the van should be getting work going in the shop, and for AC that went out. It's a lot of money. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And so I'm praying over my wallet is what's happening, so that it God multiplies.
So if you're listening and want to become an advertiser or a sponsor,
yeah, you could.
We will gladly not turn that down.
So but like if it was me, I wouldn't spend all that money and get my AC fixed. I just wouldn't. But so she's driving my truck with the air conditioners because she loves it. And just the other day, we went to go to the pool just to see how my family, my kids and my wife, how they are. Went to go to the pool. No. Went to go to the football kids camp. It's gonna be hot that day. We're riding in the morning. It's not bad at all. It's like 78 degrees, but it's humid. I had the windows rolled down. We're just going literally, Nick. Literally, it's not even a full mile. It's like 0.8 of a mile. They immediately rolled the windows up, even though I rolled it out. Rolled the windows down, hopped in the truck, cranked it up. Everything's good. The kids, everybody piles in. We go to pull off. They started rolling the windows up. I said, "What y'all doing?" I said, "We're just going down the street." And I said, "You gotta get used to it anyway, because we're about to hit the football field. It's gonna be hot." They didn't want. They wanted to be in the AC. Just for not even 1 mile. They were like, "It's so hot," and I was like, "I didn't find it at all hot."
Yeah.
But but in my home, that's what I have to deal with. So
somebody was talking about that the other day about what we have to be grateful for. People born in the 1920s, they said, never even had a hot shower. And it's just what we get acclimated to. And
that's so true.
Yeah. So imagine if once, all these women are now getting to that age, in our age range, where they're talking about perimenopause. I hear women all the time. It's like, go join a Facebook group. Don't be talking about that on Facebook all the time.
What's the difference between, is it pre or peri?
It's like perimenopause is what they call it, but I think it's pre. But it's called perimenopause. I wrote a song on, I don't know if you know the AI songwriter, Sonu or whatever, called Perry, and is blaming everything on Perry because these women that Nikki's friends with, everything is perimenopause, foggy brain and all this different stuff, and it's like, they get to be the victim now of perimenopause. And so I wrote a song about how it's Perry's fault. Everything's Perry's fault.
So what advice would you give to a man? This has nothing to do with our episode, but if their wife is in that pre-Perry, Mary, Carrie menopause.
You don't need to ask me. We need to bring someone else on.
My wife is not in it yet.
Yeah, Nikki, I don't think is, but she's getting closer to the age. It could happen anytime.
My wife too.
But no, there's some guys, I won't say their name because I would want their permission first before they start talking about it, because their wife might be going through menopause or whatever. But that we would need that would be a good episode to have on,
because I've counseled many couples when their marriage goes through and really when it comes out, you're like, oh, I'm just saying, over the years, it's like their wife is actually going through it, and then the guy's like, she's like not the same human.
Yeah.
and then
maybe we need to listen to the episode. Maybe we need to bring 2 or 3 and let them
and we just listen.
Yeah, because they.
All right, we've been in the works. We're gonna have to do that because I'm super interested because I need to be prepared.
Because we've even talked about at Hope Church with our marriage retreat, we're trying to add some breakout sessions so we can specifically talk about different things. Doing some sessions like on, dealing with menopause, because while the woman's primarily going through it, it still can affect the home. So that might be a good where we just say, here's the microphone, y'all talk about it, and we'll be the we'll be the listener that week. That would be cool.
Yeah, I've been a part of some crazy situations where the husband's like in his lower 50s and then she's in her upper 40s, and they go through that and they get a divorce. I think the divorce rate is super high at that age,
Yeah.
When in upper 40s, lower 50s, and I think there's something tied to that. That's what I believe. I believe it's kind of like everybody's different, deal with postpartum too.
Yeah.
So some females deal with postpartum really, severe. Some of them don't. But then we have 3 kids. My wife really dealt with one of ours was really in a dark place, and the other 2, she was like great at. I mean, it was not a big deal. I mean, she still dealt with stuff, but it wasn't a big deal at all. But if the other 2 was just like the first one, we've been in some serious like dark times.
Well, and so you mentioned that, and that kind of ties in because the example I want to give, what I wanted to say, I was like, well, that kind of ties with what we're talking about today. So we can just jump right into that because, guys, I do think, and this is not fully encompassing, this may be something we pick up in another episode down the road or even next episode, but, I think something we need to talk about pretty seriously is like men's mental health. And once again, we know ladies also deal with their own thing. We're not ladies, so we can't speak to that. Right. We're not experts on ladies going through menopause and stuff like that, and we wouldn't dare even act like we could answer some of those struggles. But speaking of like, even this was interesting to me, speaking about even postpartum depression, and that's really, we want to kind of talk about men's mental health, even if it's just a surface level introductory conversation.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting because one of the things I was going to talk about today really fits with this. But there was an article, and it was talking about a man going through postpartum depression. And ladies jumped on the conversation. It was like, men can't because they don't have babies. And, several people said it's a big change for men too. Now, not necessarily in their body, but all of a sudden, men are dads and there's a greater responsibility, and that can make men go through some things that even women don't understand. Now, men might hide it differently, but a man dealing with, they said, postpartum depression, whether you would term it that or not, someone pulled up like the definition and it's like, yeah, that fits even for men. But he started like meeting up with some guys, and they call it like the stroller club, and they would meet at the park and bring their kids in strollers as cool. Dads. That grew to over 300 men meeting at the park on a consistent basis, bringing their kids, which also gives the mom a break.
Yeah.
But it built a kind of a community of men meeting together who are all going through this change of being a dad now, having this greater responsibility, and, now being parents with, their wife. And so I just found that interesting. But as we were talking about individually, I've just seen an uptick, and I think it's like June is supposed to be Men's Mental Health Month, but they, it kind of gets overlooked because, our world's deemed it, or at least our country's deemed it Pride Month. But it's something that I've seen several podcasts thankfully start to kind of talk about and address. But I do think it's something we need to talk about. Just over the last 3 weeks myself, I've had encounters with guys who obviously are dealing with something.
Yeah.
And some might be situational, others are chemical. Like it's, and I'm of the belief, and I'll pass it to you, but I'll kind of set the stage with this. I know, especially as Christians, a lot of Christians have different views on things. My view over the years have changed. I grew up in more of a legalistic, kind of environment where it was just kind of like just pray it away, just believe it away, and yet someone several years ago, and this made sense because I've now being a pastor and being an adult, you've encountered people who are born with physical deformities, you know, missing hands or arms or fingers or whatever. And so, someone put it in this kind of framing. If someone can be born with a physical disability, why can't they be born also with a mental, essentially, disability or chemical makeup to where they struggle with things like anxiety or depression? And so I do believe that some things are circumstantial. We go through this overwhelming experience and this overwhelming experience, and it all piles up, and then maybe we go into a state of depression or deal with some anxiety and things like that. But others, I do believe, is a chemical imbalance that needs some medication help, needs some counseling, things like that. And so I want us not to have the perspective of, oh, that's fake, or oh, it's a lack of faith, or whatever. What's your thoughts on men struggling with some of these mental health issues?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I mean, as somebody who, my dad took his life, mental health, and I almost took my life too in my 20s, and came down to the millisecond. And
do you want to tell that? I don't know that everybody knows that story.
One?
Do you
Which
feel
one?
comfortable about your own?
Yeah,
because you say that, people are going to be like wondering.
Yeah, so if I back it up, I remember being in 4th grade and I got real sad, and I would just wake up and I was just always sad. And sad, thinking about my grandparents going to pass away, all this stuff. But I grew up with childhood trauma. And so I remember being in 5th grade and getting out of school, 5th grade. I didn't want to go to school. I cried a lot, went to school still, and put a happy face, played, run around the recess, play sports, etc. Real poor. We didn't have anything, hardly anything, to be honest. And I remember being sad and put my head down and just want to go to sleep all the time. And I just remember my mom get me out of class one day, and come to find out, it was like teachers and people became aware of it really quickly. And I started seeing a doctor. People, I think it was by the county or something, school system. And so it went on for a long time, and it was just trying to help me to get perspective and stuff. So I still struggled after that. I got a little bit better, just talking out how I feel, etc. So I always had a bend, kind of a lean-to of just how I see things, and I can get very sad and trapped in my mind. So I graduated high school. I was almost 21 years old, and my friends wanted to better themselves. I had some family drama, some things that were happening. People owed me money, and then I owed people money, and I also was in a relationship that I shouldn't have been in, and then I was really by myself solo for a long time. All my friends went off to college, and here I was. I was the guy who, would date the prettiest girl in the school type of thing. I was like good athlete. If you saw me, you'd think I had the moon. I had nice clothes because I worked 3 jobs. So outside was one way, inside I was like falling apart, and it just reached a low point to where I didn't want to be like my dad. So I didn't want to take my life, be like my dad. And many a times I sat there before I was going to take my life, like thinking, and all I could think about is I can't be like my dad. So I would write a journal. This is how sick I was. I was very sick. I would write a journal out how my day was. In short, like a few paragraphs and this, and I kept it on my bedside. I never journaled. I don't even journal today as a Christian. I don't journal, but I journaled every day, and then I had the date, and was going to take my life, and I just knew this is probably when I would do it, and journal, because I thought when I get in this car accident, if I rode 100 miles an hour or close to it and I just hit this tree, everybody always passed away. There's always like flowers and stuff around this curve out in South Augusta, and so it's kind of notorious. And so I thought if I just ride as fast as I could with no seatbelt and get real close to the steering wheel, that it would throw me out and I would die upon impact. And so that was the play. And people would come back and pick all my stuff up, and I'll be celebrated. People would, here's Shane, all this other stuff, and they would find that journal where life was great. So nobody would ever suspect, but that was me. I was very, very sick. And so that morning before I was going to take my life, we went to cash a check. My buddy Jonathan Barnes cashed a check. We rode back through, and my buddy and my friends don't really do this at all. He just looked at me and said, Nick, he said, I remember I couldn't even like really look at him because I was like kind of shameful, you know? And I just looked out the window a lot. We're riding this little S10 lowrider. And he looked at me and said, out of the blue, he just said, hey, man, I just want to tell you I love you, man. He said, I don't think I've ever told you, but I look up to you. And you've had to earn everything in your life. My parents have given me all this. His dad was a pastor. And he says, but, you know, he wasn't perfect. He wasn't living like he was perfect either. And just said he loved me, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. First, I thought he was gay. And because the way he came out and said it, I was like, I ain't gay. And in my head, I was like, I don't know. And so, and Jonathan dated a girl, so I immediately thought he was gay. And then he started talking out, and I was like, okay. And the whole time he said stuff, I was really upset. And so all day long, I isolated myself and didn't answer my cell phone in those days, didn't do anything. And I just kept myself. And I stayed in this little room at my mom's house, and I had to move back in with her, which I thought was a really step down. And so I was by myself the whole time, and then I asked her, could I borrow the car? And I had planned that night to take my life, and I hopped in her little Ranger and took off. I drove the back way into the city, made a U-turn, and drove back out. And then this is it, man. And I was like, it's kind of like when you get so bold, like you don't even care. Like I didn't even care. Like I was like, this is it. Like I was settled in my whole decision. Like I was like completely settled. But all day long, I kept on hearing my buddy Jonathan say he loved me, and it was like a bad song you can't get out in your mind, and it just came rattling, and down to the millisecond, bro, I just hit that gas and was going boom, and it came around that curve, and then it like a flood came to me, and it was my buddy Jonathan's voice, but it wasn't Jonathan. It was the Lord. Pulled into the ditch, about lost control. My bike got in a wreck, pulled out. I jumped out. I was sitting all cockeyed in the ditch. If you've ever done that, where you hop out and you're about to fall out, I fell out in the ditch, and I just got on my knees. Man, I didn't know what was happening. I was shaking, and I just told God that whatever He wants me to do, I'll do, and I love Him, and I'm sorry. And I didn't know what was happening, and then I remember cars passing by and slowing down and have turned their brights off and on, you know, and hop in the car. I was so scared. And I knew I had mud and stuff all in my mom's car. I'm going to have to hear her, but I really didn't care at all. I just wanted to get home.
Yeah.
And I got home, and I just went into the room. And I was isolated for about 2 or 3 days, man, just by myself. And really was dealing with all my sin. And I just remember how all that had felt. My mama cussed me out because her car was messed up, and then she didn't know what was happening with me, and I shut my door, and she's at my door, and he opened the door, and she was cussing me out, and whatever, and how could I do this, and da-da-da, and I just sat there, man, and anyway, so that was my beginning of, I would say that would be my beginning of, like, really trying to understand my mental health and what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so even to this day, I get sad easier. I'll just with trauma, like I think about stuff, and so, but I think I was predisposition, like what you just mentioned. I think I was just kind of how I'm born. Always had a little bit of some anxiety, and so I just look at like triggers, and I'm not isolated, but when I do get isolated, you know, I found myself in not a good place. Like I'll be inconsistent, you know, and so, but obviously staying in community and stuff we're going to talk about with the remainder of time, which is not much.
Well, and I would imagine that if you have a predisposition towards sadness, then on top of it, dealing with other disappointments, especially that stack on top of one another, you know, whether it be a parental issue like with your dad or other things like having to move back in with your parents or whatever, that could compound.
Yeah.
And I think if we were to say really the conclusion on the front end, I think your friend really represents what is vitally important for men, and that is a brotherhood.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Whether you call it a brotherhood, a community, you know, one or two guys that you can be open with and that you can like be honest with, and I know that's hard to find, and I know there will be guys out there who's like, you know, well, I don't have that. Well, in some ways, you have to be intentional about seeking that out, and it doesn't mean that they're always at an arm's length away. You know, I've got friends who are a phone call away, but I can pick up the phone and call them. I think what happens though, and that's why I said this is probably just surface level
for sure.
But I know even you shared on this podcast back when you were giving an update on your health, just dealing with that, not feeling yourself. And you're one of the strongest guys I know, you know, and so, you know, I think every guy needs to really understand. It doesn't matter how strong you are. And I think that's the danger is we feel like we've got to be the rock and we can't show weakness. And that not being willing to show weakness is a weakness.
Yeah.
It is built on pride, and a haughty spirit leads to a fall. And that's not always like, oh, I'm better than them. That's the mindset of I've got to put on a facade and a certain face. And so on the front end, you have to have a community, because if not, what happens is when we're dealing with that sadness, that brokenness, the disappointment, all of that, the anxiety, the depression, however you want to word it, then I believe there's three options that we have, two major things we often do because we have to act strong and we have to not show weakness. We either isolate, and that you share a little bit about that, you know, 2 or 3 days alone in the room. I've known men who completely abandon their family. They may move out. They may lock themselves in a back room, and now, you know, daughter needs them, son needs them. They're checked out. Wife needs them. They're checked out. Now that causes a disruption in the home. And that's where people will say, like, a lot of mental health is selfishness because we've checked out. And in some ways, we may not feel that in the moment. We may feel like we're doing them a service, but really it affects everyone. It affects them. And so we isolate, which then could lead to other negative behaviors, other negative actions. The other is we flip out or we freak out. And that's where you see people go and, you know, cause harm to other people, do violence, go crazy, just manic, just, you know, acting like they are, you know, here and there. And, you know, I know a guy right now that's been dealing with that. And he should be on medication. He has diagnosis that requires medication. Well, he believes he has enough faith that he's healed from that.
Oh, there you go.
But we've seen him spiral out of control, and it's affecting his family because I don't need that medication. And when I managed the substance abuse program, I used to tell guys, unless a doctor tells you to come off, you can't come off and stay in the program, because that's what would happen. Guys would spiral out of control. And really, those are the two extremes when guys don't get help. They don't have a brotherhood. They don't go to counseling, and counseling is a good thing. And sometimes if we're going through marital issues, we're like, you know, well, we need marriage counseling. No, I would advise individual counseling before marriage counseling, because if you're not right as an individual, if I'm not right as a husband, it doesn't matter what we're learning as husband and wife.
That's so true.
I've got to be right. She's got to be right, and then then two right people can get it right together.
Yep.
But the other thing, so I believe you either isolate, you kind of check out, you flip out, or you can figure it out. And that's where the counseling comes in. That's where a brotherhood comes in. Those are the options that we have. And unless we are willing to go and figure it out, it's only going to go bad.
Yeah.
It's only going to end in a negative result, either individually or for other people that we're involved with in our life. And that's, once again, we see people harmed because people flip out. And so any additional thoughts on that?
I think you're 100% correct. The whole, like, figured out, like, if you know that you have, like, for lack of a better term, a genetic predisposition to, like, be a certain way, whether it's high anxiety or worry or fear or, you know, whatever, you have, like, something that's there. Like you need to figure out what that looks like. Like I would really like know that, because some people they just never have a problem at all, but then they have situational. And the thing about situations that makes it tough is that oftentimes you can feel like you're the only one that's in this, that has ever in this whole history of planet Earth.
Right.
Is that you're going through the same situation. Like, nah, bro, like I promise you there's like so many people that's going through it. You also at that same time where you maybe have never gone through a hard season. Like I think about my wife, she's not a man obviously, but like she never had a hard day in her life until her dad passed away. She never went to a funeral.
Wow.
First situation she ever face to face with a hardship was her dad dying, and she was dead. So it was very hard because she's never been given those skills. Now sometimes life beats you up so much that you learn how to like roll with the punches, and I'm more like that from a physical like situational stuff. I can deal with it and process it, and and I'm better at that. But but the lean to obviously it's a little bit more like I can just be sad about something, don't even know why I'm sad. And so since I know this for 48 years of my life, not really have known it for 48 years, but more like about 35, I know what not to do, what to do. And when I do feel a certain emotion, I know what to go to, and so my faith is that, this may sound kind of weird too. Like I know some of the things that when I get a funny reel or something from like Nick or another buddy of mine, they send me something. I have always loved humor. I always love to laugh. I love to see jokes. I love to like roast and pick, and like I find a lot of joy in that. Not just happiness, but joy. Meaning I can be in a really tough situation, suffering, and think, man, I was even laughing at myself. Like, man, I really do look like I have cancer. And I think you sent me a text. I'm shriveled up like 168 pounds. You do now look like you have cancer. And I'm laughing, and you can't even really laugh because my mouth is jacked up. And so you're like,
it was like
laughing at yourself. You laugh at yourself. It's like, dude, I look like Skeletor, And so, anyways, I say all that to say, like you got to have that brotherhood, man, and you got to be not so prideful and arrogant to think that you can do everything on your own, and you can't. You need each other, and just even for the sake of having other brothers that says, hey, I walked through that journey too, man. It was not fun, but hey, this is what I learned.
Right.
Or hey, I'm currently walking through it, and it's like, we were just talking about the whole menopause thing, or however they say it,
perimenopause, and then there's menopause.
Yeah, so like even that where somebody's like, man, my wife is I don't even understand who she is, and they go, hey, I'm in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
You have like I always say fellowship is a bunch of fellas in the same ship, and so that's fellowship.
Yeah.
And the ship that we are living in as believers is that we're sinners saved by grace. And we're all jacked up, and we need the Lord. We need each other. And so,
I think the other is we all have different capacities. So we can't, I have a very high capacity for things. I have to learn to be patient with other people because they're probably not going to be at the same
level
commitment.
That is true. This is 1,000% true, guys.
So the other day, I text Carell and just said, hey, I'm taking Tuesday off because I worked Friday. Which is normally my day off. I worked Saturday, had a late meeting into the night on Monday. Now, I wasn't like overwhelmed, tired, but Friday, when normally I would be taking care of personal stuff, or Saturday, you can't do that if you're working on your day off. So, and what your family needs and things like that. So I got personal stuff I need to take care of. And so for me, it was like, hey, I need to do some personal stuff. But for some, they may need that to recharge. They may need that time. That's not me. But there are times I can feel myself getting overwhelmed. That's why I had to have our conversation with our oversight team at one point and go, hey, guys, I'm making great money at this job. I'm bivocational. I'm giving 50-plus hours a week at this job, and then also trying to plant a church. One's got to give. So either our church needs to have the faith for me to come on full-time, or I'm going to stay over here because I had reached that capacity. Well, that took that was 6 years of being bivocational. That was a lot for me to hit that threshold. Not everybody's there. So you have to know your boundaries. You have to know your limitations, and then you have to be able to pull back. One of the things we teach in anger management, and I've taught that to several classes over the years, is you basically have a scale of 0 to 10. At about 6, you better have a plan in place. When you start yourself scaling up, you got to go, okay, I'm at my limit before I explode. And so once I feel like I'm at a 5 or 6, what is my plan? And you help people put a plan in place. And so that's something you don't really need help with. Like when I start feeling overwhelmed or tired, what do I do? Do I take a day off? Do I spend a couple hours, doing a hobby, something I love to do? Do I call a friend? Like, what is it when I start feeling overwhelmed do I turn on a comedy and just have fun? I think we all need to have a plan, know our limitations, and have healthy boundaries and live within those and not try to be someone else if that's not who you are, because if that's dangerous. So that's kind of my final thoughts on that.
Shoot, we got to continue this conversation. I think we're out of time, but we certainly, Nick and I, will get together. We'll find a time to finish this conversation, and also try to get people on the pod that is or has gone through their family in the pre-menopause stuff, whatever it's called. I always want to call it pre-menopause.
I think it's all the same thing. Pre-menopause and full menopause.
Full blown, bro.
Full blown toddler menopause.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, as always, if there's been anything in this episode that has been beneficial to you, please like and share it. Leave us a review. That helps other people to be able to find it. If you're on our social media platforms, which if you're not, you can find us there, we'd love for you to share in the comments maybe some things you've learned about overcoming some mental health struggles or things that have helped you. Join the conversation. We don't want it just to be the two of us talking.
That's right.
We'd love to hear from you as well. Thank you so much. Do you want to pull up that thing real quick?
Yeah.
We're out of time, but we're flexible because we run the podcast. We love getting feedback, and so we got this feedback a couple of weeks ago. And anytime you want to shoot us a message, whether it be through Facebook, if you got our personal information, let us know how the podcast is impacting you. That's why leaving an actual review on the podcast platforms is helpful, because when you hear things like this, people want to tune in.
Yeah.
Share what was shared with you.
Yeah. So obviously we every once in a while we'll get people that text us or send inboxes on social media, and I receive this via text. But the text goes, "Thanks to Mel Cartel and the discipline instilled in me by y'all's motivation, I'm officially down 50 pounds since November. It was time for me to make a change."
That's awesome.
Mel Cartel has played an extremely impactful role in my discipline, both physically and spiritually. You two may never see the fruits of your labor, but what y'all are doing is impacting people in ways you'll never understand. Here's to loving Jesus, loving my family better, and loving my body respectfully. And so this is from one of my former students named Kyle, and we love you think about, like, in this case, there's been people that Nick and I both that come in contact with for a duration of time, and they go off and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And he found Mel Cartel and found the podcast about this time in the fall, and a little bit beforehand.
Wow.
And then make a change, and which is very, very, very grateful just to hear that, because he's sent some pictures as well, and he looks good. He looks healthy.
Awesome.
And he has a baby, and he has a family, and so he'll be a better dad and husband for it too. And so we're very grateful for that. And so for all the criticism that we often face with talking about being better, we really enjoy the communication back to us that we are making impact, because that's why we got into this. We're not doing it for the money. We don't do anything. We just thought, hey, maybe we can help some people, and by our perspective. And he's not a doctor. Nick is not. I'm not a doctor either. Yep. And we don't have all these crazy degrees, but we do have perspective, and we'd love to share it. So
great job, Kyle. And that is what it looks like to get 1% better every day. And take that, whoever left us a 1-star review. You take that 1 star and you do something with it. Well, thank y'all for tuning in. And as we encourage you always, get 1% better every day.
Yep. See you next time.
See ya.
Thank you for joining the Mel Cartel podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share to help other men join the cartel. You can also keep up with us on social media and at melcartel.com.